Ram Krishna Samagnaya Yo Dharma Stapanarato Viresham Tam Namamyaham Viresham Tam Namamyaham. I salute Viresha, who was always absorbed in the highest reality, who understood Ramakrishna and who was ceaselessly engaged in establishing Dharma. This is a part of the hymn that his brother disciple, Swami Vivekananda, who lived for many years in Chennai, wrote about him. That more or less sums Swami Vivekananda in a nutshell, of course. So Swami Vivekananda's gift to the United States, what was the gift? Eleanor Stark, in a 1980s book, The Gift Unopened, A New American Revolution, traces it to Swami Vivekananda's first appearance at the Parliament of World Religions in 1893. In the New York Times, I think October 2011, Anne Louise Bardach writes, "Precious few of the estimated millions of supple spandex-clad yoginis in the United States who sustain an annual 6 billion industry seem to have no clue that they owe their yoga mats to Vivekananda. However, Swamiji," she writes, "enriching this irony was Vivekananda's utter lack of interest in physical exertions beyond marathon sitting meditations. Yoga, which was on the fringes of society here in the US, has now become a subculture, and in some places it's the mainstream. Somehow or the other, the word yoga itself has become so current everywhere. And in 2014, the United States General Assembly, they declared June 21 June, as International Yoga Day. And people in about 84 countries observe this International Yoga Day by practicing these various asanas, postures, capped with, of course, with a little of silent meditation. So this is how the philosophy of yoga has been spreading. Of course, the philosophy itself is, you can say, vast and deep, but people have started tentatively now opening up that gift. Eleanor Stark, she said, the gift unopened. Yeah. So, what more can we expect? A lot more. So this was Swamiji's gift to the United States. Yoga, it's a very ancient physical, mental, moral, intellectual, and spiritual disciplines that arose, I don't know when, but the earliest commentators speak about the origins of yoga as it arose from these old Vedic sacrifices called yajnas. Part of that sacrifice, and this is a fire sacrifice, you pour in oblations. And part of that sacrifice was contemplation. That it's not just a physical act that you're doing, it's a mental act also. So this began the, you can say, the penetration within the mind. So even Buddha, by that time, yoga was firmly established in its current form, the disciplines. And he practiced yoga. So we can say that it was codified. Vyasa and also Patanjali, who wrote the aphorisms, he went round the country, collected and collated all the various practices and put them in a sequence, in a structure. About yoga asanas, well, he says, Sthira Sukha Asanam. It is like posture is that which is easy and firm, pleasant and firm. And he doesn't elaborate on this. Much later, in the 11th century, we have these great Natha Sampradaya, that is the tradition of the Nathas. They developed the practice of Hatha Yoga. Now, technically the word Hatha Yoga is quick yoga. I remember when I had first come to LA and then I was looking, hot yoga. I said, what? And after some days I saw pot yoga also. I said, well, that is going too far. But that's the United States. They are experimenting with everything. And that is what I like about this country. They will see these things and it's okay, it's good. Some will get caught and snared in those, but there will be those who will seriously inquire about the higher aspects of what we are doing. And this is beginning to happen. So Patanjali and also the commentators, they take yoga, which the English word yoke has come from. So yoga, to join, to yoke. But it's one of the meanings. The other meaning is concentration. And in the yoga philosophy, the word is used in the second, you can say, sense. Samadho. Yujir yog, samadho, samadhi. Now, samadhi means people say, oh my God, they're sitting down and going to samadhi. Samadhi means simple concentration. I mean, simple, but ultra concentration. So concentration is the key to understanding the higher nature within oneself. So Vivekananda taught meditation, but he was, as a teacher, he did a remarkable job. He took yoga philosophy, clubbed it with Vedanta, and clubbed it with Tantras. It's an amazing, you can say, feat. And we see what happens is, you're the genius. So if you see some of the old commentators, they are stuck only to the yoga philosophy. And Vivekananda, like what his master was, he brought all these three great streams, the yoga, the Vedanta, and the tantras. Tantras is not that esoteric tantras that we hear about. It is a practical application of awakening your dormant powers. That's what it is. So we see this gift that Swamiji has given us has this tremendous potential. And why? Because this potential was for so long confined within the language, Sanskrit, which is tough to crack. Oh yeah. Then within a particular culture, but it did branch out into Asia in the form of Buddhism. Buddhism is nothing but yoga put into practice. And one of the tenets of Buddhism is right concentration, right meditation. So this is what yoga did to the East. Swamiji, he says in one place, I have a message for the West, like Buddha had a message for the East. Now, this is a tremendous statement. Imagine, the East was transformed by yoga. The West also is going to be transformed by yoga. Why? First is the astonishing spread of knowledge everywhere. A lot of boundaries are being broken, and on all levels. Humans, today the humans, I don't know why it's a result of technology or what, but our cognitive capabilities have become enhanced. We are cognitively more superior. And we can also think in abstract terms very easily. So whether it is due to evolution, and evolution does not just sculpt your bodies and design your bodies and say, this is what, okay, this is a good thing for you to now survive. It doesn't stop there. It keeps on. And this power of the evolution has now entered into the mental realms. That's why it is now forming minds. Then all the old ideas of individuality and the self, religiously speaking, you will say, okay, the idea of the self or idea of the soul are undergoing a huge change. People are now thinking deeply about, okay, if the soul is immortal, that it can be in all places, it's omniscient and omnipotent, etc., etc. It's no longer confined to that small, you can say, ideas which somebody, some religion or something has inculcated into us. So the ideas of the self within us is undergoing change. Then there's a growing sense of taking personal responsibilities, depending on oneself, not on some priest or some books, etc. Swami Vivekananda says, it's good to be born in a church, but bad to die there. In the sense of, you need to keep on growing. Institutionalized religions have their own, they had their uses. Now, those old structures are actually stifling growth. So people want spirituality rather than just dogma. Then we have all the 8 billion people or more, whatever, they're just exploring and exploring and exploring the seabed, underwater, in space, and everywhere. They're going from the nano scale to now to the femto scale. It's even smaller. It's like that monster who is just insatiable, the human mind. And this is what is propelling people forward. Coupled with this is the idea of stress and tension and loneliness. That's a paradox of our time. We are expanding, we are growing, and yet we feel that loneliness, that you can say aimlessness. What are we doing here? Why? What's my destiny? What is the purpose of life? These questions are now being persistent. They're being drummed into our souls. And now the human body, which was a great enigma, is more like a kind of an open book. The human mind, people have been exploring the human mind. Classified as conscious and subconscious and etc., etc. People have now entered into the realms of searching the mind through all the sciences, neurology and psychology and psychiatry and all these. So we have the field ready. The people now want a spark. The Hatha yogis, all the yogis, they have now begun to understand. Is health and wellness and well-being and a stress-free and a tension-free life, is that what we want? Because what happens is we are feeling the mind more than the body. Oh yes, somebody comes and criticizes me and I feel, oh my God, it takes me a while to come back to my center. Somebody praises me and I feel so good. So it is more, we are feeling the mind more than the body. And people with excessive body consciousness will inevitably feel life is meaningless. They just want to keep the body, and for what? Where? It's all going to go away. So these inquiries into the higher nature, what is our real nature? What is the mind? This is being studied. So Anne Badak says, Swamiji says, you are not the body. He often reminded Americans who tend to prefer doing over being. More distressing for some was his other message. You are not the mind. What? What's this? It's saying you are the soul. And the goal of the soul is liberation, moksha. That's what it is. So why aren't we then immortal? If we are the soul, why aren't we immortal? There is, in the yoga philosophy, there's something called non-knowledge that covers the soul. And yoga is the means to tear that veil out. The people, they want a God and personal God. But generally, they use the arguments of the scriptures. They haven't not known God, but they will say the scriptures say the scripture. But that's not valid for everybody. It is not. So I follow the other scriptures. Why should I follow your scriptures? And there's that constant, you can say, conflict between the various scriptures. Yoga Vedanta is neutral. It is a practice and a philosophy that does not require a personal God. So you are the one who is going to practice it. The second reason is, people who speak about God, or people who preach atheism, there's no God, and they are legion everywhere, and it's a good thing. I hear some of these atheistic arguments, and wonderful, wonderful. They're all trying to attack the personal God. And here in Yoga Vedanta, the reality is impersonal. That is what makes it more attractive. Then they think, people generally, that this level of consciousness that we are in, this sensory level of consciousness, is the only thing in this world. They use this level of consciousness to either press their point or to dismiss the point. And yoga teaches us, oh no, this is just, Swami Vivekananda says, this consciousness that we experience, that we know we are, is only a thin film on the ocean of subconsciousness and the heights of superconsciousness. Yes, yoga will take you up these various levels. They don't bother too much about the subconscious. They say, you stand up here and you start practicing. So it is this opening up of these ideas of different levels of consciousness and its impersonality that makes it so attractive. Who is eligible? Everyone. Whoever has a body and a mind is eligible to practice it. Is that all? Yes. And that's what that universal appeal is. And we know nowadays that the world that we see is actually just a representative of what is actually out there. The mind has contributed its ideas to what has come from outside in. This itself is now an attractive proposition for Yoga Vedanta. Because this hard material world that we experience, on inquiry, it is seen not to be so. You can call it a ceaseless mass of energy or whatever. But this is not what is really out there. So the idea that, it's representative, the mind contributes to knowing what is that mind. These things are now pushing towards yoga fellow. Okay, that's the yoga side. Sometimes I used to wonder, why did Swamiji, the carrier of this gift, spend his best preaching life in the US? He did interact with a lot of people in India before he came here. And he also delivered some lectures also there. But you can say his work started here on US soil at the Parliament of Religions. And today is the 17th, on the September 11th, which was the day, 1893, where he first declared Sisters and Brothers of America with his great speech. And we know what happened in 2011 there in New York, 9/11. So whether it's a coincidence or what, we do not know. We now ought to listen to Swami, because it's nothing but a clash of ideologies. What you saw was just a manifestation of a clash of ideologies. And this is going to be dangerous for the US. or for anywhere. So it is yoga who will cut through these ideological barriers also. India was then thought of as some backward colonial British colony. And they should think, oh, these polytheistic and you can say ignorant and poor people, they don't have anything. And in fact, most of the people had never seen an orange-clad monk with a turban. It was the first time, oh my God. And he became a sensation there. And he saw that he had to continue here, not only to break barriers, but also to spread that spirituality. Marie-Louise Burke, in her monumental work, Swami Vivekananda, The West New Discoveries, she says he used to go to remote places and we don't know why. He was invited, he was a lecture bro, kind of robbed him, of course, made him work and work and work, gave him pennies. But we really don't know why he went to all these places traveling. She says later on, he was just spreading the seeds that will later germinate. That is why. You know, there are instances where Swami Vivekananda is traveling by train. He's cold, he's hungry, but as he used to get into meditation. And he'd be sitting in the train, he's in meditation, and the station that he's supposed to alight has long passed. The train has passed that station. Comes out of it, and again returns to that. Sometimes it used to happen a couple of times. So his mood itself was that highly meditative state. That's the reason why the opening verse says, constantly absorbed in the higher reality. He was in that higher reality. And it is on that level that he spoke, actually. He never spoke. All his lectures are not on this level of consciousness that we are in. Never. He spoke from the higher level. And that's what makes these words, his words today, almost imperishable. They will last for a very, very long time. And then what he spoke about the divinity of the soul, and all religions are true because sincerely followed, they will lead to the same goal. This was novel to the US. And one of the commentators says, author says, the public reception, and after the public reception, Vivekananda stayed long enough to ignite the east to west transmission that has reshaped America's spiritual landscape. And he tailored his message accordingly, because the commentator says it appealed to Americans who valued rationality, pragmatism, and science. That is how he shaped his message for the US. Yeah, because when we speak in India, we don't need to have all science and this and that brought in. It's a straight scriptural, you can say, talk. And oh, this guy is okay. But here when we come, we have to bring in all these things. Because it is required. So this was Swami. Now what is Swami Vivekananda? The carrier of the gift, as he said. The opening verse said, Viresham. He was Viresha. Viresha is the name of Shiva. Viresha is the Lord of the heroes. And he was also called a heroic soul. So he was born as a boon from Shiva himself. So I'm trying to make it like, no, okay, he was not just an ordinary human being. He was a divine being who went around this country. So Sri Ramakrishna, one time he saw a light emerge from Benares, Kashi, and fall straight in Calcutta. And then he says, my man has come. So one of his relatives, his mother, used to pray to Lord Shiva for a child. And her relative was there in Benares. She said, every Monday, go and worship Shiva. She used to go to that Shiva temple, which is still there, of course. We also go. It's called Vireshwara Shiva. So his name was given Vireshwar, but then it shortened into Viresh, then became Bile, and later on, all the other names. Narendra and all that. Sri Ramakrishna, when he first met him, second time when he met him, saying, my child, do you see a light before you fall asleep between your eyebrows? Yeah. And Swamiji was under the impression that everyone used to fall asleep like that. He's saying, when he used to lie down, he used to see a brilliant light between his eyebrows with changing colors. Then he used to sleep on his belly and used to watch that light, and that light used to then burst and used to bathe his whole body with white light, and he used to fall asleep. So he thought everybody fell asleep like this. So Sri Ramakrishna said, that's a sign of a yogi. Not only yogi, a perfected yogi. So even as a young child, he used to sit down and meditate. And he had heard from his mother and that these great yogis in the Himalayas, when they used to sit down to meditate, they used to meditate for so long and so many years. Their hair used to become matted, and those locks used to enter and touch the earth and enter the earth. So that boy used to sit down and meditate, and then he used to open his eyes and see if his hair has grown long enough. There were times when the whole family was kind of terrified because they heard that the snake had entered. And he used to play with his friends in the game of meditation. Everybody used to sit down and used to meditate. So those boys saw a snake enter and they ran out and they told his parents. And that snake just simply slid across his laps and went away. He was oblivious of it. So such was his absorption even as a young lad. His orientation was just to get into this higher, you can say it. Oh, he was, and he used to say, I never actually sat on the chair in school. I used to be sitting between, he say, I was between sitting and standing. I used to hold the desk. There was so much energy vibrating within me. It used to make me restless. So this was that power that was welling up within him. So what was his gift? His gift was yoga, his experiences. You see, under the tutelage of Sri Ramakrishna, he then attained to the highest level delineated in the yoga aphorisms called the Nirvikalpa Samadhi. And of course, Sri Ramakrishna is saying, let him be in that state for a while. He often pestered me for it. And here I hear people say, I have experienced Nirvikalpa Samadhi. So really? Oh my God. It's tough. But then that's a crest jewel of yoga. You can get liberated even on the slightly lower levels of consciousness. So we won't go into what is Nirvikalpa Samadhi, etc., because it will take a long time. So what happened was, Sri Ramakrishna was now training him and molding him to do his work. And Swamiji was not willing to do it. First was, I said, no, I'm not going to do that. Sri Ramakrishna had written, because he had cancer during the end stages, he said, Naren will teach the world. Naren Shikka Devi. Then Jai Radhe, Naren will teach the world. I'm not going to do that. Saying, your very bones will do that for me. And that's what he did. He gave in, of course, and then we find there was another great yogi called Sri Aurobindo. He says, the master, that is Sri Ramakrishna, marked him out, Vivekananda, as a heroic soul, destined to take the world between his two hands and change it. Not physically, of course, but on the spiritual, you can say, level. Now, we see, okay, this is a carrier of the gift, and there's a gift of yoga, Vedanta, and all these things. We can understand. But Swamiji himself was a gift, was given to the world, to the United States by Sri Ramakrishna. The real, you can say, person behind Swami Vivekananda was, so he gifted Swamiji to us here. There were times when in the US, in the morning, they used to ask him, who are you talking with last night? We heard you talking to somebody. The doors are closed and everything is closed. Oh, it's nothing. He used to wonder before falling asleep, I've got a lecture tomorrow. What topic I'm going to speak upon? I don't know. Sometimes he used to kind of go blank. And he used to hear a voice speaking that very things which he later repeated in his lecture. Loudly. Loud enough for even the other members of the household to hear. Sri Ramakrishna himself used to speak that to him. So he echoed Sri Ramakrishna's words. Yes, that's a fascinating. When I first heard, when one of his disciples asked him, well, we have heard of this. Oh, it's nothing but a higher mind. He was just trying to be kind of more rational. But it was the power of Sri Ramakrishna who was working through him. See, what happens is, Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother, before coming to the West, he saw Sri Ramakrishna walking on the waters, the ocean, at Rameshwaram there. Not Rameshwaram here, but Kanyakumari. That's a last point, where is the temple to the Divine Mother. So he's saying, you come, follow me. He wasn't willing then. So a couple of times the vision was repeated. Then he wrote to Holy Mother for confirmation. And that was, of course, a long tale, but a wonderful tale. Mother received his letter in telegram. In those days, they had no emails or phones. And she wrote back, "Yes, my child, you go. It is the will of Ramakrishna." Only after receiving that telegram, that was a command, then he made arrangements to go to the West. So here he was, Vivekananda, steeped. He was like a god. Yes, he was like Swami Turiyananda, who met him just before he boarded, a few days before he boarded the ship. So I seen him perfected, and his heart was as wide as the Buddha. He's saying, "Haribai," that is Swami Turiyananda, "I don't know anything about your religion, but my heart has grown so large." That was what, and then Turiyananda remembered, oh, this was the exact words of the Buddha. So he came here with his large heart, with his power of experiences, and he gave it freely. That was Swami Vivekananda. And what he has done, it will take years and centuries for it to unravel, to open up, to germinate, to flourish. But we are seeing the first signs. Slowly, these ideas will percolate down to the consciousness of the people, and people will understand. And it is now for each and everyone. It is not just one gift, one big box he has given to the United States. Here, this is a big box. Come and take. He has given a box to each and everyone. The gift is for each and everyone. It is now just up to us to open it and take. The gift is kind of something which is given, free. It was given. And that was his mission. And we hope this country will become enriched by receiving this gift, opening this gift. It's already received, opening this gift. Because like I said, I was only curious. 2 times he visited the US. In total, he stayed about 4 years. A few months in England, and he toured the continent. But his main work was here. And I used to wonder, still wonder, why? He gave his best here. And for that, we are so fortunate. So this land is a blessed land. So wherever he has gone, as for me, one time I was invited to New York, and I was going. And then I returned, I said, how do you like New York? I was not interested in New York as a city. I went there because Swamiji was there. He lived there, lived and worked there. For me, it's a pilgrimage. So slowly this idea will come that what he has given us has been so precious. We must treasure it, must cultivate it, and finally, it will lead us to that blessedness that he wanted each and every one of us. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu. Okay, we have no questions here. Yeah.
So just kind of I guess a little bit like reading between the lines of some of which it seems like he kind of had a personal journey that he went through like over the course of his life where, you know, in the beginning it seemed like he had some, you know, personal will, and he had to kind of dissolve some of that to get the right sort of divine will from Sri Ramakrishna. And even you kind of mentioned how some of, you know, his actions in India were maybe less potent than some of the work that he did in the U.S. I guess, was there a point like where he kind of realized what his true dharma was? Was it a progression or was it sudden? How did that come about?
Yeah, it was a progression, because in all the incarnations we see a gradual progression. They are aware of it in a rudimentary form of their divine nature, and then they proceed to manifest that. And when they come to a point when, oh, this is it, there is no now fighting it, they surrender to that higher divine will. So yes, you can say that he had his own individuality and he proceeded to become that universal person. Another thing, another point which just slipped my mind, you know, after he worked in the US and then he went back, that was something that really ignited India. India was sleeping during that time. It was under the colonial rule, and before that, under the Muslim rule for 800 years. And he just went there, and the whole country was kind of awake now, aroused, that the idea of, you can say, yoga and Vedanta and all these things now then started kind of becoming, they are having a relook at these things. So in one way, America was responsible for awakening India, and India was responsible for awakening America. So that is, so yeah, it was wherever you went. So yes, from an ordinary rational standpoint, it's a progression. For us also, at one point of our times, you know, we feel that kind of touch of immortality. And then again, it's kind of covered up with all the mundane stuff that we do. In these cases, what happens, they proceed, the mundane stuff doesn't touch them. They proceed to slowly, slowly unravel this great science. Like, because like Sri Ramakrishna is saying, you say these people, they are calling me an incarnation. He's saying, let 1,000 people call you an incarnation, but I won't do it until and unless I have proof. You got this proof? And that was what he also preached. You bring your rationality to all fields, including religion. And religion, of course, it has grown so huge and large, and all the superstitions have come in and all the useless things. Your rationality will remove the non-essentials and go for the essentials. So that's a nice question, but yeah. So he did a kind of a personal journey. And if you look at it from another standpoint, yeah, he himself was an incarnation of Shiva. And people saw him at times as Shiva himself. So you can imagine Shiva walking around the US, in New York, in Detroit, in Chicago, in Los Angeles, and San Francisco, all these places. Yeah. So that's the reason why I said, yeah, he was like a kind of a god he was walking about. The human element is always there. So he was extremely, you can say, restless and naughty and all these things. Don't worry. He was just like us. He could cook, he could sing, he could dance, he could wrestle, he was good in athletics and everything. He was, Sri Ramakrishna says that looking at him, the world will not see somebody like him anymore. So that was, I could go on and on and on. I wish people would kind of read his works. It will enrich them. So, all pranams only. Okay. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu. As we made announcements that on Sunday also during this time, we have mothers' children who come out here and are being taught basic concepts of spiritual values through stories, through meditation, etc. We also like to thank all our karma yogis for coming in yesterday and doing a wonderful karma yoga. The next Sunday's talk will be, what is a guru? Because this idea of guru has become so kind of pedestrian. It has to be kind of put in that correct perspective. Thank you very much.